Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking in our ragtag team of champions that people do find somewhat cool and fun, but typically we don't see too much gameplay of into last quest of Road to the Labyrinth. All of these champions currently are rank 3 5 stars, so basically they are there about the same strength level as maxed out 4 stars, which is pretty much what this quest was designed for. And we're gonna start off with Hela against the superior Iron Man on spiked armor. So since Hela doesn't really have any decent good way to mitigate the spiked armor damage, it's quite evident that we will be taking some chip damage here and there. However, the point is to use every single champion of this team, at least in a fight or multiple ones. And yeah, so we're gonna start off with Hela here, because the idea is we're gonna stack up a bunch of Furies as safely as we can, and with that hopefully try and close this fight out relatively quickly. And Hela, I think I'm gonna use her again in the final boss fight. She's actually gonna solo that fully immune Thanos. That's gonna be quite cool. But yeah, for now, so I'm on 10 Furies, so I'm dishing out quite good damage, even though I did not get my armor break on. However, since I do not have any synergies coming in with Hela, then I do have to stay extremely aggressive in order to maintain my Furies. However, still a good level 2 there, armor break, 10k crit, 9k medium crit from like unsynergized Hela without any help and support from anything or anyone. So she's doing quite a good job. Now, unfortunately, I do not know why I didn't dash in there. It has been happening with me more and more recently, that after opponent's special attack, instead of rushing in to punish, because I think I do swipe for a medium, my champion just starts hitting in the blank air. But anyway, so this superior Iron Man at this point is already quite low on health. Now I do try to get a few more Furies going for me, because I did almost run out. And still, the fight's nearly over, so we don't have too much to worry about. We did lose about half our health. As we can see, we are on 49%, but Superior Iron Man goes down, and it didn't take us all that long at all. Now we can move on to the next fight. Next fight is going to be Abomination, and the idea here is to use Nebula. Since this Abomination also has Safeguard on himself, it is going to be quite lengthy fight. However, here I'm just kind of like testing and trying to practice building these shock charges with Nebula. I still have a lot of work to do there. As we can see, I'm taking quite a bit of chip damage, but it is always extremely good amount of fun to trigger these shocks and then drop your level 2 to double them and kind of like extend the duration and do a good amount of damage. As we can see there, Abomination lost a huge chunk of his health, and now basically the idea is to rinse and repeat the same process more or less, but I do have to be more careful when I goes to taking chip damage. I do need to react faster and kind of play better. It's one of those things that you get better with practice, and unfortunately I have not practiced too much. However, because of the way it kind of works and the fact that you can start with 10 of them, I'm actually quite interested in Nebula, and she is potentially one of my future rank up champions. I always keep hoping I'm gonna pull her as a 6-star, but I never do. And here I waited a bit too long. We can see that I did not manage to land my level 2 in time, because I don't like throwing my level 2 like immediately. I like to play it a bit riskier and let those shocks work for a while and then refresh them, because then if you time it right, you can basically kind of like double the duration. But anyway, so that was a bit of a fail, and now we are building up very carefully to the next set. We're currently at 12, 13, 14 charges, and we are getting slightly better as the fight progresses with it. But yeah, here, so 16 charges, we're going to drop our level 2. We can see that he's left only on 7%. Unfortunately, at some point here, I am going to make a mistake, and Abomination is actually going to knock me out. However, he's only at 7%, so I'm quickly going to take in Taskmaster at 5% even better and try and finish this fight out super early. As we can see here, 6 hits and Taskmaster finishes the job. Now, if there is one champion this run did absolutely no justice to, it's going to be the Taskmaster. I'm going to mess up with him quite badly because I'm going to get too greedy. Anyways, I'm going to be taking in Proxima Midnight against this Cyclops. So this Cyclops has Spite on him as a like main kind of thing to worry about. I do start on Intercept mission, which is kind of the trickiest one to pull off, especially if you're under effects of Spite, I suppose. But luckily, I am doing a fairly good job in building these missions up. So at this point, I only had to land last Intercept. We have done it here. We all have that attack, special attack boost here, that prowess that is wonderful always to have. And we drop our level 2 that starts to do decent damage. And now we are basically on our second mission. Now, unfortunately here, he did not want to drop his level 2, and I will end up eating a level 3 to the face. However, we still managed to survive, and we're going to just be working with the remaining 18% of our health here. So the second mission that I have to fulfill here is to knock him on his bottom 4 more times. Initially it was 5. However, my level 2 accomplished actually the first kind of like go around for that mission. And as we can see here, yes, we have 2 more knockdowns left in us, basically. Obviously, with Spite and Prowess being an active buff, he is constantly gaining a lot of power, and it is not the easiest thing to kind of manage. Now, here I drop a level 2, and that level 2 stun in this case is kind of even hindering me, so I'm kind of cutting it close, but nonetheless here. So I'm going to drop my level 1 just to kind of like use that attack bonus from these prowesses, and now I'm left with my last mission to fulfill. It's a last one, well, almost last one. Last one is with the 100 combo hits, I believe. Nonetheless, so basically I have to parry this guy for 5 times. I did try to parry that special attack, well, actually miss-evaded, but it counted it as a parry. So now I do need to land 2 more parries. It shouldn't be too bad, but at the same time I always have to keep an eye to that power meter there. And yeah, so far we're managing just fine. 1 more parry left in us, and then hopefully we can finish on this fight. We can see that he is at 48% currently. We're dodging back-to-back level 1s. Finally we finish this mission, and I'm just going in with my level 2, and that was a massive level 2. There was like 231k crits from a rank 3 procs, so that's not bad at all. We finished this fight. Unfortunately, we did lose majority of the health along the way. That was kind of unfortunate, and that is also kind of like the point of this video that I'm trying to make, not to post kind of like superbly smooth runs, but just to kind of like post realistic runs in kind of quests where you do not typically see these champions being used. And I'm maybe thinking of making series about these kind of champions that technically are not the worst of the bunch, but are definitely not meta choice for most either, and see what kind of content we can get done with them. But anyways, now we're going up against a Rocket Raccoon with unblockable special attacks, and I believe he also has Safeguard on him. I chose Man-Thing for this fight just because those poison stacks should be getting around that Safeguard quite effectively, and also, as we all know, Man-Thing doesn't really have any huge burst damage over there. Plus, and on another upside, Rocket Raccoon does get that cruelty buff after each level 1, which occasionally, if we get lucky enough, we can convert into a pustule and gain some extra poison over there. Or at the very least, we can get some agitation strikes, agitation built up, because that does count as an active buff. And as we can see, this fight is going down fairly easily, nothing kind of like too stressful over here. Man-Thing is doing a solid job. Now I pushed myself level 2, so I immediately dropped that one. I always have to remember that his specials are unblockable, so I do always have to get out of the way. At this point we had like 8 poison stacks on the guy, so that wasn't too bad of a time at all. We're dropping our level 1, getting those pustules on him, popping them. Mystic Dispersion activates another level 1. It is a fairly kind of relaxing rhythm that we can do with Man-Thing over here, and that Safeguard presence, it's not really all that noticeable, because yes, our damage is capped. However, all the time in the background the poison sticking away and everything's kind of like happening at the same time. So yeah, slowly but surely we have taken down this Rocket Raccoon to 22%. It didn't even take us all that long either, 55 hits so far. So we have definitely been doing like a solid job, because Safeguard limits our damage to like 1% per hit. And the fact that he's pretty much down at 60 hits already does show that Man-Thing definitely works around Safeguard quite effectively. And yeah, 66 hits in, the fight is over. Now we're going to be moving on to the next fight, and next fight is going to be a horrible one. I'm going to get my bottom kicked by this Venom Pool. He is stun immune, therefore in hindsight he probably wasn't the best matchup, but there is a way how you can play around stun immunity with Taskmaster, and that is kind of like counter heavies with heavies, because whenever you try to exploit heavy attack, in particular, you gain that phasing time. And if you are kind of like a bit more experienced and skilled, you can pretty much make sure you do that constantly. Now, the one thing, the big mistake I made over there is I started my heavy attack while he had about a power, so he just threw the special attack, and the phasing expired kind of like mid special attack. And yeah, overall, I definitely still have quite a bit of practice left with Taskmaster. As we can see here, we only did 34% of his health as damage, closing into 40%, but we're almost down at this point. So I don't know, this was like a really sloppy fight, definitely not proud of. We'll have to feature Taskmaster in some more videos in future to kind of try and redeem myself. But then to finish the fight off, I just decided I'll go in with Man-Thing. Now, don't get me wrong, Man-Thing doesn't really have anything good going in this fight, if that makes sense, because he triggers buffs constantly, therefore he's going to trigger spite on himself constantly. Also, we will not be able to easily parry and heavy to pop these postules. However, it all kind of works out because you can just increase the tempo of the fight, largely bait level 2s, and then at the same time, whenever he gets some buffs, you can nullify them. Even if the postules end up expiring, then your Mystic Dispersion gets kind of loaded up and you can drop a special attack. And yeah, so once again, might not be the perfect kind of like matchup, but hey, it's working so far. And yeah, here I pushed myself to level 3, so I'm immediately gonna drop that one just because I want to get rid of my power and basically get all the Mystic Dispersion benefits started up all over again. As we can see, we do have quite a bit of poison at this point on the guy, plus several pustules waiting to be popped if we manage to do so. And somehow this fight is working out just fine for us, and he's nearly down at this point. Last 4%, we're dropping out level 1, 2%, we still have some poison damage going, and the last touch on the guy, and Venom Pool goes down. So next fight is Black Panther Civil War, and funnily enough, again, he's placed on a stun immune node with spiked armor, so the stun immunity is actually really helpful because you do not have to worry about parrying the guy on accident. Again, technically we do not have a real way to mitigate any damage we do take from Spiked Armor. However, that being Black Panther Civil War and Spiked Armor node being active, that is basically a buff fiesta, and I'm going to do my best to capitalize on that by dropping my level 2s and basically popping all the Spiked Armor, armor buffs and whatever else this guy has. At the same time, since I'm below 50%, I do get that small heal from every single special attack. So long as I don't take kind of like too much block damage, I should be able to squeeze through in this fight. This is actually one of those fights where I didn't expect Man-Thing to do as well as he did. However, it's all working out quite well for us, and we definitely don't have too much to complain. And yeah, so once again, we're just using our special attack to intercept the guy. Then, as always, we do need to be careful not to eat that level 1, because the level 1 of Black Panther Civil War is fairly finicky. Typically you want to finish with 4 hits or a special attack, otherwise that evade spacing can be tricky and it still can kind of catch you. But so far we have done a great job. 60 hits, he's halfway down, so it's not the quickest fight. We're also not fighting technically the most effective way as we possibly could, but certainly all those extra buffs on Black Panther Civil War do help. In conjunction with Mystic Dispersion, we are free to special attack spam basically, and with that obviously we get poisons, we get power back, and it is quite a good fight actually. I don't mind it at all, and Man-Thing's putting in some work in this run for sure. If it wouldn't be for Man-Thing, we would have failed the run some point in it. And now the one matchup that does worry me that's left for me to do is just before the Thanos, and that is the Scarlet Witch, because my Nebula went to sleep against that Abomination means I do not have any poison immune characters. I was also kind of counting on Taskmaster being secondary option over there, just because quite early in the fight I'd expect I'd reach a point where she places 10 debuffs on me. and that would kind of make him immune to all debuffs, and that would also go for poison. But yeah, he's also down for a count. So I don't have too many good options left for that Scarlet Witch. On Spite node, the Spite I don't mind too much on Scarlet Witch, but back to this fight anyway. So the fight's nearly over. We did take quite a bit of block damage, however that regen is slowly but surely helping me heal up. I purposely kind of like delay my hits in the last bit, trying to recover a few more extra health points in the fight, and hopefully just kind of like finish off the fight without triggering more spiked armor. 112 hits, no hits taken. The Man-Thing puts that Black Panther down to sleep. And yeah, now as I mentioned, Scarlet Witch fight. Now this fight, I opted to go in with Man-Thing just because pretty much he was the only champ that's not in class disadvantage, and well, yeah, so we technically do not have poison immunity, so if she does place poison on me, it's gonna be a very hairy situation here. To top it all off, I eat a level 1 at the beginning of the fight, putting myself in extremely low health point situation. And now I definitely do need to be careful. I do have a hope though of a good RNG, and when she places these weakness debuffs on me and whatever else, I can hopefully heal up a bit with willpower, plus obviously the Man-Thing's own regeneration after I drop my special attacks. And yeah, so the idea is pray to God I don't get poisoned, and if I do, pray to God I can survive it and recover my health quickly enough kind of point. But so far we have been doing quite a solid job. Aside from that one level 1 we ate to the face, she's at 66%, I'm still at 24%, so my health is kind of managing up there. And also, since we're not aggressively kind of striking her, and Man-Thing definitely does not have the biggest crit rate among all of the champions in the game, we're not really getting all that many debuffs on ourselves, which is definitely working really well for us at this point. We're managing to maintain our health points, and she's going down slowly but surely. We drop a level 2. Once again, that Spite is pretty much always active and present in this fight, but with Scarlet Witch you don't mind it too much, because typically it's extremely easy to bait out her level 2 attack. Whenever you just stand aside, lower your block, she is almost always gonna throw it. So I'm not really worried about pushing her to special 3 at all at this point. Now we haven't been getting any debuffs whatsoever, which is quite interesting. Now we did get that heal block, but at this point she's already at 3%, 1 heavy attack, the fight is over. So Man-Thing definitely put in a solid, great job here. RNG was on our side. And now the boss fight. Now this boss basically has kinetic reactor and full immunity to everything, so I can't stun him, and oh, he also has safeguard, so it pretty much always guarantees for it to be a long fight. Now my game plan here with Hela is going to be that for the first part of the fight I'm going to build up a quite bunch of these spirits, and then afterwards I'm just going to slowly but surely start building my furies up by throwing my level 1s. Now the point is there is not too much reason to try and get many furies early on and try and do some sort of damage, huge damage numbers, just because there is safeguard, right? So safeguard's always going to limit my damage. So the reason why I chose this kind of game plan is that I want to slowly but surely increase my damage output to a point where my hits typically hit around the level of safeguard, and then try and maintain these furies for the remainder of the fight, and yeah, basically close out the fight that way. Because yeah, he's fully immune, so I can't armor break him with my level 2s. Also, if I do get a lot of furies myself, yeah, it's not gonna help me too much. So I'm using kind of like fairly steady approach to the fight. Now I do quite a lot of dashback intercepts, and since I do that I can't finish my combos with mediums, so my spirits are building a bit slower, but we're in no rush in this fight. We're just kind of like wanting to finish it out. This is the last fight of the quest after all, and the solo would be perfect as well. So as we can see at this point, when I was over 600 spirits, I started throwing my level 1s. Each level 1 will give me 1 fury buff. And yeah, so I'm gonna keep throwing my level 1s, building up my furies, start hitting exponentially harder and harder. Obviously I'm gonna be limited by that safeguard, which is at like 1970 I believe, but if I can get my non-crit regular hits to hit close to that mark, I'll be able to close this fight out relatively quickly to what most opponents can do. As we can notice here that our damage is going up quite decently. 120 hits in, he's at 70%. We're at 30 Furies, but we're hitting quite hard now, and we're going to build up a couple more Furies, and he's going to go down kind of unexpectedly quickly. I expected this fight to be even longer as it was, and actually it turned out I pretty much timed my Furies and my spirits almost perfectly as well, because I'm only going to run out of the spirits and start losing my Fury buffs towards the end of the fight, towards like last 10% or so. So I'm going to be able to spend vast majority of this guy's kind of health pool at my peak max damage, pretty much. Well, as it can be limited by safeguard. And yeah, this fight actually working out really well for Hela here, just because of the nature, the way she plays, and the fact that she can remain at a high damage output if you have built up your spirits for quite a while. But yeah, that will be pretty much the last fight in the video. And now, before I do finish this video, I wanted to kind of ask for your opinion, guys. Do you enjoy this type of video, kind of like showcasing maybe a bit less seen champions? Where do you get them mixed in together with each other, completing kind of like different quests and different piece of content? I would kind of try and be taking them in rank appropriate quests, I suppose. So if I want to showcase my rank 4s, I'm going to be taking them in some Act 6 probably. My rank 3s, then that's going to be like Act 5, the road to the Labyrinth, so on and so forth. And yeah, let me know what you guys think about this video. What do you guys think about this idea in general? Perhaps we can make it into a series. And yeah, if you did like the video, hit that like button, hit that sub button, hit that share button, hit all the buttons. And I'm gonna catch you guys soon. We'll be back with another video. But yeah, all the best and see ya.